any part of this video is particularly interesting to you, then you can just check the timestamps in the bottom and jump to there. A while ago now, I produced a video on how to use the LingQ app, and it helped a lot of you, but I think it's a little bit out of date now. So in this video, we're going to go over exactly that again, but with an updated viewpoint and a refresher for anybody who needs it. The way this video is going to be structured is I'm going to give you a brief introduction on how to use LingQ, but before that I'm going to show you actually why you would even want to use LingQ and why it's such a good app, and it's the one that I've chosen over the many other ones that I'm sure you're familiar with. After that introduction, we'll get straight into the actual main bulk of this video. In that, I will be discussing the various features available to you in the LingQ app and how to use them to their fullest, really. And then to finish this off, I'm going to wrap things up with some tips and tricks that I've kind of gathered over my time using LingQ that I'm sure would help you, especially if this is your first time trying an app such as LingQ. So LingQ's main purpose really is a personalized language learning experience, in that you can incorporate comprehensible input, language immersion, and also an increase in motivation to keep you going. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of comprehensible input and language immersion, but if not, I will put some stuff in the description for you to read up upon to briefly summarize the main concepts of language acquisition and those two I've just mentioned, because that is really what LingQ was based on. So comprehensible input is essentially picking out content, picking out lessons or anything in a language where it's not too difficult, where you can't understand something, but also not too easy where you're not learning anything. So there's always, you have a certain amount of knowledge, right? And then you have this little bit extra that you don't know. So that little bit extra shouldn't be too much for you to feel overwhelmed, but because you know a certain amount, you should be able to work with that and other context clues to figure stuff out. And that is the main key about LingQ. It's giving you these tools to be able to figure out the language for yourself and actually learn by questioning it, by trying to understand it, and etc, etc. It's not spoon feeding you, but it's making your brain work for it, and that's what's really important. So the next thing is immersion, and essentially that is just allowing you to immerse yourself in the language from the very get-go. The immersion part comes from when you really just dive right in, and that's what LingQ allows. That's what LingQ facilitates. But the third thing that I haven't mentioned yet, and I think that's really important when it comes to LingQ, is that it increases the motivation for learning languages. And if we base it off of any one of these papers, I'll put one up on the screen here. But motivation is such a key factor when it comes to language learning, and it's what really kicks a lot of people out in the early days when they lose motivation. They no longer want to continue the language because they're kind of sick of it. And trust me, I understand that, and I have struggled with that in the past, but LingQ has allowed me, and I know this sounds really cringy, but it has allowed me to keep up my motivation, because it's all about learning what you're interested in. And if you learn something that you're interested in, say if you have certain hobbies and you look for those in the LingQ app, or if you import them, which we'll get into later, you can learn exactly what you want to learn. And if you know that what you're learning is going to be relevant to you in real life, this is such a huge factor when it comes to language learning, that it really just sticks in your head, because you're not learning things for the sake of learning like in other apps, but you're learning because you want to learn, and you have that drive to learn what you already imported or what you already selected. It's all a personalized learning experience. Okay, if you skip to this section, then this is the time for the features. So I'm going to list through all of the different features I think are important to know about on LingQ, and that can be helpful for you in your language journey. If you find these helpful, please leave a like, it really does help, and comment anything in the comment section. I will obviously be replying to everything I see, because it's been a while since I've posted. And yeah, I hope you enjoy. Let's go. And I'm going to jump onto my laptop to continue here now. So this page is the home page from LingQ, quite obviously, but you want to go up into the top right corner, sign up for free. So in the sign up page, you will see at the bottom, you'll see my affiliated username of the referred person. This will give you a little bit more of a chance to get started with the app before you are recommended to upgrade if you want to continue using certain features. However, before we get into that, the first thing you need to do is you choose a language. I will do Spanish here, and your level. I haven't done Spanish yet. You'll see more of this in future videos, but let's say you have a beginner, intermediate, or advanced. So I'm going to go with beginner, and I'm going to fill in all of the name, username, password, etc., and I'll meet you then afterward. So we're in the app now, and as you can see, it's kind of laid out a little bit like Netflix, where there's various different panels for you to choose from. So this will be the library section. As you can see in the top left-hand corner, we are on the lessons tab and on the library tab. To go forward from here, I just want to show you where everything is on the app. So as we get started, we can see that there's a Getting Started tab because this is the first time you're logged into the app. You won't need this tab to start off with because if you watch this video, I will cover everything you need to know in English, so you don't have to try and translate everything from the language that you chose. Anyway, you see the guided courses, which can be quite helpful if you're struggling to start off on the app. Say if you started as a beginner, you would probably want to go through some of these lessons to start off. But as you can see, there's various different tabs that you can go through all the way up to Advanced 2. So these are guided courses, but they are not necessary. You do not have to go through this order. Next, we have the mini stories, which are essential for this app. That's probably the biggest selling point and driving factor for people signing up for this app. You also have the trending tab, which is quite self-explanatory. It's what people are currently finding very useful and what people are currently studying. Then we have various different tabs titled Newsfeed, What's New, Books, Podcasts, News Articles, etc., etc. So that's the main library interface, but we also have the tutor option. So if you're interested in getting live one-on-one sessions to practice your speaking, then you can click on the tutors tab on the top left-hand corner. But as you can see here, various different tutor pages pop up and you can read a brief description, a brief bio, you see how much they are per hour, and you see their rating and their availabilities, also a small short introduction video to them. You can choose the different countries that you want them to come from, their native languages, their availability. Yeah, that's basically all you need to know about that. Then there's also the community tab. And in this tab, there are threads, kind of like Reddit, where there's different questions being proposed or posted, and then there's a discussion to try and figure everything out. There could be recommendations there for you as well. There's quite a lot of various things available in this community tab or the forum. Then the challenges to give you some motivation, as I mentioned before. So you can see the 90-day language challenges, the 1,000 word challenges, etc., etc. These will repeat periodically. So if you miss the start of one, you don't have to wait too long for the next. There's also a writing exchange. As you can see here, you can submit a piece of text and this can be corrected. I clicked correct writing and then I can add corrections to this piece of text this person produced and then submit. This doesn't cost anybody anything, and I think it's a very nice feature available in the LingQ app. And next we have My Profile. So this is where you see a lot of the data and stats about your learning, which I think is pretty cool to look at over time. So I'm going to jump quickly into my own profile so I can show you what it would look like over time. So as you can see here, I am in my own profile now in German because that's the major language I'm using LingQ for. And as you can see, over time, you can see the known words gradually accumulating. I'm currently almost at 18,000 known words in LingQ over the years. It's variable. I haven't actually used it today, so that's why you don't see anything on the left-hand side, or on the right-hand side, sorry. But you can see the coins. So these are things that will keep you active on LingQ, so you can earn coins by reading, by listening, by saving links, etc. And this will be sort of something to keep your streak going, essentially. You can also see various different stats that you can check each week. So the known words, links, listening, etc. And then you can sign up for challenges and you can earn badges, as you see here, for various different known word milestones. Okay, to finish off the interface part of this tutorial, I'm going to show you what it will look like when you're choosing lessons. And essentially what you want to do is you want to keep the percentage of unknown words to a minimum so that you don't get overwhelmed when you start a lesson. We're here on my German section again, and we're going to go to the trending section and choose one of the LingQ podcasts. We see the number of new words, so there's 39 new words that I haven't seen before in this lesson. There are 26 links, so things I have seen before and saved them already. So that will be part of the repetition of learning words. You see them again in various different contexts. And then there's also known words. So in this lesson, or in this part of the lesson, as you can see, it's part number 1. I already know 501 words that will appear in this session. So before we even jump into it, you know that you're going to see less blue words, less orange words, but mostly non-highlighted words, so the white words. So I'll click into it, and as you can see, we are in the lesson now. As I mentioned before, the white words or the unhighlighted words are words that I have saved and known. I've clicked them, we know them. Good. Words that are orange are stuff that in the past I've seen but didn't quite know, so I've saved them. So when they appear again, I can see them highlighted in a different color. Or I can go directly into my vocabulary section, which I'll show you later on how to learn with LingQ, and go through them there because they will be saved there. Blue words, as I mentioned, are ones I haven't seen before. Okay, the last thing I'm going to go through before we go into the actual learning on LingQ is a little bit more of the settings to make your experience a little bit more fluid and easier and less frustrating. So we're still in the lesson as you just saw, but it looks a little bit odd, right? So we're going to go up to the top right corner and click on the 3 dots. So we see various different available tabs that we can click through. We can see the lesson info. We can print the lesson if we want to, for whatever reason. We can download the audio, show the translation. We see some statistics available. We see a grammar guide, which I'll explain later. But what we really want to do is we want to go into the reader settings. So you can change the text size, for example, because it might change on whatever device you're using the app on. I personally really like it on my iPad or on my phone. You can also change the page width. So what I like to do on my laptop is put it into a double page. For most, if it's a long lesson, there'll be enough text to fill the both pages. So we're going to click on the double page and see what it looks like. As you can see, it's on both sides of the page now, kind of like a book. I really like this one more. Then we're going to go back into reader settings to continue. So there's also a different theme. I suggest keeping the highlight theme the same because it works better on the app. There's also various things here about links and etc. Don't really have to pay too much attention to that. That's all fine. But the text to speech is something that you might want to change. So say if you don't want each time you click a word for it to say it out loud in this voice, you can turn this off with this check mark here. You can also change the voice that's saying these words. But more importantly, and I think this is probably what most people will want, unless you're a completed, like an advanced learner and you're starting off with earlier or easier content and you know every single word on the page already, then you can leave this checked. But if you're not that, you can skip through the pages without them saving all the words. And that's what I really like, because you want to just skim through the lesson. You want to read it but while hearing, without having to go through it in detail just yet. That's what I usually do. So what I do is I turn paging moves to known off, and I turn auto link creation off. This just allows me more freedom to skip through it and not be bothered with having to go back and save words that were already automatically saved, etc. If English is not your primary language, which you probably would have selected at the beginning, you can change that here or add more languages for when the translation pops up when you select a word. But again, we'll go through that later. Okay, so now that we're in the lesson, what do we do? So as I mentioned before, you should already know what the different highlights mean and what the blue words and the yellow words and the white words mean. To actually study a lesson, what I usually do is I go through it once entirely without paying too much attention to the stuff I don't know. I will play the audio lesson, play the audio. Good, so that's available there at the bottom. We can also play the YouTube video that might be affiliated or linked to this lesson if it was already posted on YouTube, for example, and you imported it. More on that later. So this is what I would do at the very beginning. I would go through the lesson, just read everything as I'm listening to it, see if I can understand most of it. If not, then at least I can know what I don't know, right? So it's quite a long lesson, so I'm not going to flick through all of it. But once we've done that, we might want to go through it in a little bit more detail. So if you're struggling quite heavily with understanding the sentences, then as you can see in the bottom, this is also located at the bottom of all the different devices, you can click sentence. Okay, so I went into a different lesson here to give you a better example. So once we're in the lesson, we want to go through it in more detail. We want to click on the sentence mode, as I said before. So this is going to pop up something like this, where you see a sentence clipped out of the entire lesson, so you can look at it in more detail. We have them here. We have some of the blue or the yellow words. As we see, we also see some of the blue words. So what you want to do is you want to click a word that you don't know, and then it's going to pop up with some popular meanings. Depending on how popular your language is, the more accurate or less accurate these will be. But the more minor languages that you might be learning on Link, there are various, as you can see, dictionaries here for you to look it up with more accuracy. However, I would primarily just use at the beginning the popular meanings available to you. So what we can see here is they're very different popular meanings, but we want to go with worker, employees, etc. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this again because I already know it. It's not a completely new word for me, so I can click familiar. So this is number 3. And we also see other words. Say if I already knew this, then I could click the tick mark here. It moves it from an unknown word to a known word. However, the most important part of this sentence view is because you can show the translation. So this will help you in case you're struggling trying to understand sentences. I would always recommend to actually try and understand the sentence before you use this feature. It can be kind of a cop-out and become a crutch for when you're using this app, so try your best to understand it with the individual words. Even if it's not 100%, at least give it a go. You could also play the sentence audio back specifically for this section if you click the top here. After the translation, if you want, say there's a lot of words that you don't know in this section, you can look at the show vocabulary, but you can also review the sentence, and that's what we're going to go through now. Studying the words in the sentence. So you can review the sentence here, and there's matching the pairs, which you're probably familiar with if you've used Duolingo. We see translate the sentences, which I think is really, really cool. We have to put the words back in the correct place. And in contrast to Duolingo, which again, this might be familiar from, these are words directly that you've just read, but also if you've chosen lessons that are interesting to you, you're not putting back together a very meaningless sentence that might have appeared in other language learning apps, for example. And we can also speak the sentence. So I'm not going to do this here, but you're going to start speaking. You can also hear it again by pressing the audio speaker button, but essentially it gives you a percentage of how accurate you have said this sentence. In the bottom right hand corner of lessons, you can also see this as a more of a whole lesson review page. So you can see the vocabulary list. You can review a specific page. You can review the ones that are due, which I'll go through later, but you can also review the entire lesson as well. The last thing I wanted to mention with regards to a lesson specifically is you can save a phrase. So if there's something that comes up, or if there's an idiom, or if there's perhaps something that you can see yourself saying in or you're using in the language, then you can save it by highlighting the full sentence. I'll put it up here. And this will help you then review it later and learn words in context, as you are probably then grasping now is quite important for language learning. Okay, so the next thing we're going to go through is the vocabulary section. So you can have all of the words shown to you, or you can look at the phrases that you've saved, as I just mentioned. As you can see, these are very useful phrases in my mind, but you can also look at the due for review words. So typically I don't really use this feature because I like seeing the words pop up again in their native context. However, if you like learning words with flashcards, etc., then this will be a very, very good feature for you. So due for review means essentially that there's a spaced repetition software, or the SRS, as you can see here. So you'll get shown a bunch of vocab, you will go through them, try and learn them, revise them, and then that data will be saved in Link so that it knows, oh, he knows this word or she knows this word, so I won't show it for a long time, or they're struggling with this word, so I will show this again the next time. And you essentially do this until you know all the words. Easier said than done, obviously. But as you can see, there's various other things that are shown on the screen to you that you can choose from. So we have filters here. So what I usually do is, perhaps I want to just move more words to known. So I'm going to go, and then I'm just going to look at the words I've saved at 3. So this is, I'm not really sure, I've seen them, they're quite familiar, but sometimes I forget them, sometimes I know them, so I've saved them as a 3. So then I can apply this, and then the words I've saved as at 3 are coming up. They're in alphabetical order, but you could also change that if you want as well. So filters, sort by, and then you can say created date, importance, status. Importance is the good one because then each word is weighted a certain amount on Link of how popular or how often this word is used in the language. So If you don't know German, this is not going to mean much to you, but these are quite important words, as you can see by the meaning. And when you do click review, here's what you're going to be presented with. These options can be changed in the settings, so you can go to the review settings and then change what is shown in this review tab or in this review page. So this will be just a very easy flashcard option. Again, how would you say it in German? Select the correct meaning. What does this word mean? Again,
Schein.
Some listening comprehensions.
Entsteht.
And then as you can see, there's various different ones. I've probably turned some of these off, but there are some where you can fill in the gaps and it'll save it from the sentence that you saved it from and have you try and fill it in or correct the meaning, etc., etc. And now we're going to continue on with a little bit more of an advanced topic. Not that it's particularly difficult, but it's something that will come later on in your studies when you've laid the foundations using what's already available on LingQ and you want to branch out, keep that motivation up, as I said in the beginning, and learn things that are especially interesting to you. Just to give you a quick overview, I really like the import feature on LingQ. As probably evident from the screen here, you can look through all of the different lessons and courses that I've imported, a lot of them from Google, from news websites, or primarily from Google or from YouTube. I've also imported some books from sites that I will not mention in this video. But that is really how I like learning on LingQ. It's just finding what I'm interested in, importing on LingQ as a lesson, and then going through it like that. It might be quite difficult to show you exactly how to install the LingQ import feature, but there are really great tutorials available on LingQ's website itself. That's how I've done it, and it's quite straightforward. I've done it for my Windows PC and also for a Mac, so both are really straightforward, so you shouldn't have any problems. If you do, please let me know in the comments and I can try answer any questions you do have. However, we are going to jump in now to show you actually how to find content to import and also how to import it as it is, right? So when trying to find stuff to import on LingQ, it's important that you try and filter any of the content you're searching for to allow you to easily find those with subtitles available, because that's the key point. If your video does not have subtitles, LingQ does not know what to show in the lesson feed. It cannot do that for you, unfortunately. So what you want to look for, and I can show you here on the screen now, is a video with automatically made subtitles, as you can see here. But more importantly, these are manually imported. So if you see any of those manually imported videos, i.e. the captions or the subtitles, those are really the best ones that you want to choose to import into LingQ, because then you're confident that what is imported into LingQ is actually what is said by the individual or by the group of people in the video. So how do you do it? So we have it selected here, we have the correct subtitles selected, so we do Germany manually imported, and then if you're doing it on a Safari, it's similar enough on Chrome or whatever, it's just going to be in the bookmarks tab. But when you successfully follow the instructions on Safari, you can just click this LingQ button up in the top corner. You sign in, obviously. You see the lesson title, which is just the YouTube name. You see a course, so I obviously have a course already selected for this. I have a lot of courses, as you can see, but you make one specifically for whatever channel that you're using or a type of video that you want to be imported. Say if you find a lot of videos about a certain topic, then you can name the course that topic and then import those lessons into that specific course. You can also add a level if you want. This is pretty advanced stuff about climate and everything, so I'm going to click advanced 1. You see the source, everything there, everything's fine. Make sure that the language on the top is correct. That's also something important. And then you go import lesson. Then it's importing. Okay, so I missed it saying open the lesson, but usually when you successfully import a lesson, it pops up saying to open it in LingQ. However, you can also just go back to the main interface homepage, click your imported lessons, and there it is right at the beginning there. So if we click into this, should load relatively soon. Yeah, so here we go. Brand new and readily imported for us to study. Yeah, so that's YouTube. And you can do the same thing, of course, with other platforms. So here we have Netflix open. Obviously, the audio and the subtitles have to be in German or in whatever language that you want to import. It's best if it's like the language like CC and that if it's originally in that language, because as you all know, Netflix is not the best at matching what's being said to what's on the subtitles or in the subtitles. Anyway, it can still be really useful to practice in such an environment. So I'm going to show you how to do it. It's really, really easy. We're just going to click whatever thing we want. I don't think I can play any of this actually on YouTube, so I'm going to pause it as soon as I can so there's nothing on the screen. We're going to make sure that the audio is in the language we want. We want to make the subtitles in the language we want. Then we're going to go right the way back up to the bookmark or whatever you want to call it on Apple, and it's the exact same thing. You want to select the language, make sure that's correct. You want to name the lesson, add a course or import it to a course, select a level. Source will be the subtitles on this, and then you want to import the lesson. I'm not going to show you again because this video is already long enough, but that's essentially how you do that. And now I want to show you what actually is available for you to import from LingQ itself. So as I mentioned before, a lot of my imports have been news articles or things from news websites, and for the most part I get them actually from the LingQ app itself. So if you scroll down to different panels, you see one titled Newsfeed, and then it couldn't really be easier. You just essentially just click this import button. But I do want to show you how to do it from an actual website as well, so we're going to do that right now. What I'm going to do here is actually going to show you how to manually import something and not have it done through the import function or extension. So what you want to do is on LingQ, you should see at the very top right hand corner this little plus button. You want to click that and you want to click import lesson. And when you do that, this gives you the most freedom and the most control over what you're importing. So again, as you see here, you can add the title, you can add a description, you can change the availability of this lesson, so you can keep it a private lesson, and I will do that in case you're importing anything with copyright involved. Make sure that's just for you, otherwise I don't really know what will happen, but it can be a good thing. But if it's already publicly accessible and you just want to help out other learners, which I've done a lot as well, you want to make it a shared lesson, but that means that you have to add certain tags. So in the lesson feed, you can look up certain tags to allow you to quickly access certain materials that are the most relevant for you at that time. So that's what you can do at this point here. But what you want to do after you've done that, you can import the text. And essentially what I'd like to do there is, as you can see here, there is quite a lot of text on the screen. If I was to just click the import button here, it would import this whole page into a certain course, which obviously is very, very important. But if you want something a little bit more controllable, because this one actually has a transcription available, you can essentially, I won't go into it, but what you want to do is you just want to copy it. If there's just a certain thing you really want to learn about, and you just paste it inside here, and then there is your lesson for you. You could download audio files as well and put them in on the side here. And yeah, I think that's just a really quick overview on the import feature on LingQ. And now I'm going to go through anything miscellaneous that I might have missed throughout this video. There is one thing that I mentioned earlier on that I haven't got to cover yet, and that is the grammar guide. As I said from the beginning, LingQ technically does this a little different than other language learning apps. It doesn't force you to learn anything language or grammatic based. However, it does allow you to brush up on anything that you might find confusing when you're trying to read it and understand it and absorb it without actually knowing the grammar rules. I know it sounds complicated, but your brain is really good at picking up patterns as long as you're looking out for them. However, if you do need that extra boost, you want to go up to your profile picture, go down to grammar guide. This is located elsewhere on other devices. It shouldn't be too hard to find. But then you see an introduction to the grammar guide for whatever language you're learning, and then various different things on the side here, allowing you to pick exactly what you're looking for. When you're completing lessons or when you're trying to find lessons to learn, I really suggest trying to listen to the audio. Because if it has good audio, then I want you to directly import it into a playlist function. I'm not going to show you exactly where that is. It's very obvious. It has a little playlist symbol on the top. You just click that, add to a playlist. You can divide them however you wish, but make them. It's really important. And this is what it's going to look like, at least on the app. It's going to look different on the phone, but you see various different playlists or lessons that I've added to the playlist, and For these, I really try and listen to them whenever I can. I've mentioned before in previous videos how I try and learn languages when I'm really busy, and this is really essential to that. The very last thing I want to discuss before I wrap up this video are some tips that I've acquired over the years and figured out that really make learning on Link that much more enjoyable. And it is to really embrace the new aspect of language learning when it comes to Link. It is not something that you're going to be familiar with straight away, but it will take some time to actually become familiar with, obviously. As with most things in life, you need to give it a try, keep an open mind, and then just try and enjoy the process. The next thing is that you really want to keep in mind how much you already know about a language. Like, you have a lot of life experience when it comes to language learning already that you acquire during your first or second or however many languages you can already speak. That is really useful to you. So you already know that most European languages, or most languages in general, they have certain rules. They might have genders, they might have different grammatical rules that you can already keep in mind when you're trying to understand some sentences. This is different for other languages that use different scripts and everything, but just keep in mind that you already know sort of how a language works, so use that and rely on that to help you try and decipher these sentences. Okay, and so I really do hope you enjoyed this updated version of how to use Link. I think I did it a little bit better than I did last time, hopefully anyway, and if you do have any questions, please leave them in the comments. This video is sponsored by Link, so I want to thank them a lot for continuously supporting me and my language learning journey by keeping the app updated and etc., and how they reached out to me to make some of these videos for you guys. I will put a link in the description below so you can sign up using my affiliate link, and as I said before, this gives you a little bit more of a trial run before you can decide whether you want to continue with the app or not in a premium version or keep with the free version. If you do decide to continue with the premium version, then there's also a code that'll be found right next to my link where you can get 35% discount on the 1-year subscription. So thank you very much, Link, and I do hope everybody enjoys this video and you found it helpful. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, and all those other cool things that people say for YouTube videos. Okay, bye guys.